Congressman Issa, great to have you on the program. I know it's been a busy week for you.
Well, it's a busy week and an important week for America, but it's still an important week to continue with ongoing investigations and with America's freedoms.
Absolutely. And before we get into Tuesday's hearings, I wanted to ask you about the bill that you've introduced to honor Border Patrol Agent Brian Terry, naming a station after him. And he was a man we all know committed to protecting and preserving everything America stood for.
Well, the story of Brian Terry is the story of what happens when government doesn't protect its own. And Brian Terry deserves to be honored. We, both the Democratic minority leader on the committee and myself, had promised the family that we would make this happen, and it's going to come to pass very shortly.
The hearing on Tuesday, another revealing 4 hours, and I think devastating, really, for this administration. And you, along with your colleagues, really grilled ATF's Bill Newell. And I think when you called him a paid answer, that pretty much summed it up.
Well, very much. It was amazing to me and to many of the Democrats on the committee that they were still sticking by this sort of, it was a good idea, it just didn't work out well type commitment. And, of course, you only saw the two current agents who were at the center of it all, who actually were part of taking these orders from higher up and executing, defending this program. Well, four other agents and former agents made it very clear that this was reprehensible. It wouldn't happen. As I went down the line toward the end, I said, well, what would have happened after January 8th in the briefing that Newell had presented? And they said, well, I'd have shut it down.
Yeah.
Crossed the line. This wouldn't have started under those agents, but it would have been shut down long before it was and long before Brian Terry was killed.
You know, and I've been talking about it ever since the hearings, but there you have Newell sitting in the same room with these agents, and he's insisting this wasn't about letting guns walk. And there you have Carlos Canino, the acting ATF attaché in Mexico. I mean, he was so emotional during the hearing about why he knew this was wrong, it was a deadly mistake, and it wasn't what they were taught to do as agents.
Well, and it reminded me of people saying, answering the question is, did you take that cookie out of the cookie jar? And they start saying, what cookie, what hand, what cookie jar? You can play semantics all you want. Very clearly, four agents all knew what was being done was gun walking. Well, the agents involved tried to defend that this wasn't technically gun walking. Well, the guns walked and people died.
You know, what's getting a lot of attention from the hearing is these emails that Newell sent to the national security staffer Kevin O'Reilly at the White House, where he wrote, "You didn't get this from me." What do you make of those emails? I know the White House is saying, hey, it had nothing to do with Fast and Furious.
Well, the White House is very good at saying what something didn't have or what didn't happen, but they haven't cooperated in any way, shape, or form, providing us with the answers to the questions we've asked. And so we'll have to continue going down this road of who knew what when and why this program wasn't stopped, and whether it goes to the White House, whether his, quote, longtime friend in the national security team was doing this at the bequest of somebody higher up, or simply because he was interested in finding out why a bird brain program like this had gone on for so long.
Yep, and you're so right. They have these carefully crafted answers. And, you know, you even look at the Attorney General. He says, you know, I didn't authorize it, but like you said, it doesn't mean he doesn't know about it.
Well, and Eric Holder has been very good at mincing, at dividing words. As you know, in 2009, well before this program was far along, he went to Mexico City and touted what they were in the process of doing, and no question at all, the uptick in what they were doing is, in fact, in no small part, Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm. You know, I know that you said you're going to work to get Kevin O'Reilly before your committee, and we were talking with Senator Grassley yesterday, and he had said about the emails that, you know, if O'Reilly is a confidential person with the president, you cannot subpoena him.
Well, there's a certain amount of truth as to what people can or can't be subpoenaed for. In the case of the executives in the National Security Council advising the president, we will not be able to ask him questions as to what he may have discussed with the president in his role as in national security. But we absolutely can and will question him about this activity that was outside of his consultation with the president. And Senator Grassley will be supportive of that. And it is one of those things where investigations are often limited but we have no intention of allowing him to hide behind some sort of "I work for the president" when clearly he was reaching out to a relatively low-level agent in Phoenix to get information that ultimately could be an awful lot about finding out how much Eric Holder or Lanny Brewer or these other political appointees knew and when they knew it.
Yes, and I know Senator Grassley was saying, he wants him to come before, but he was just concerned about what that might cause, the problems that might cause for you down the road, even as you move forward with who else you want to get before the committee.
Well, and that is one of the challenges, is that this kind of investigation, you carefully go up the chain, and you don't automatically jump to the top. You make your case as you go along, you collect your facts, and that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And I'm very fortunate to have skilled professional investigators that have been doing this for a number of years under multiple chairmen that are able to make sure we do this professionally and in a way that stands up to the scrutiny that always comes.
Got to ask you, Congress takes a recess, don't they, at the end of the month?
We're planning on one.
Yeah,
we hope to take one, but we have no business taking one if there's work to be done here. So we'll be here for a while longer.
So do you see more hearings coming, like in the next month or two? What are your plans?
We have scheduled or allocated slots for 2 more hearings between now and the end of the year. They haven't been fully worked out, but we've left space open knowing that this is an important issue to all Americans.
Can you give us any idea who you want to see on those witness lists?
Well, very much we're going to be looking to go up one more step to some of the individuals in Washington, some of whom we've already interviewed. But we're also going to continue looking to the expansion, whether or not the same program or something similar was going on relative to Honduras or other areas. And that's one of the reasons we haven't named the specifics of the hearings yet.
Because I know people are talking about, whether George Gillette, if you see Lanny Brewer getting before your committee.
In time. Right now, we continue to push the administration to do what's right and start turning over documents rather than simply complaining when we get documents from whistleblowers that they don't want to have made public.
So you still are struggling. I mean, it's hard to believe how long you've been asking for these documents and for this information, and you're still struggling to get it.
Well, I always say the administration delivers information in black and white pieces of paper completely covered by black where they've redacted virtually everything.
And that brings me back to the emails. Were there other attachments or anything that we haven't seen in reference? There's been some printings about were in those emails?
Well, we're still trying to get the rest of it. Again, remember, this was information provided by a whistleblower,
right,
not information provided by the administration.